she should be here. Another one, this didn't have to happen. I don't want any more slow singing and flower bringing. I want you to solve the problem. 1-year-old of an unhoused mother found dead on a bus bench. This is in America, or was this somewhere else? Let's go on. 26-year-old Amantha Van Cleave, mother who became part of Los Angeles's unsheltered population, is mourning the loss of her 1-year-old daughter, Yayra Rutherford, who passed away last month while the family of 3 was living under an overpass near Los Angeles International Airport. Van Cleave telling reporters the infant would still be alive if the city had more places for her and her 2 small children to sleep at night. Van Cleave and her children had been on the streets of Westchester for 8 months, new to the city, fleeing from a bad relationship. That's commonplace. Van Cleave and her children first lived in their car. The mother cared for the little girl and her 2-year-old brother, Judah, by driving the Uber when she could afford to rent a room in a hotel. They would have housing, but only on those times where she could afford that. Not every day. This mother could not do it. Over the past month, the family had transitioned to camping out at LAX and also spent time at a bus stop near the airport, the location where Yayra was found. Baby's family says the baby was just coming into her own personality, growing fast. She'd stand up in the bed. She'd tap me and she'd go, "Hi," every morning at 4 a.m. I don't have anybody to wake me up now, Van Cleave said, according to NBC Los Angeles. Mom added that the little one was teething the night before. This bereaved mother said she just went to sleep and didn't wake back up. Imagine the suffering. Imagine what this child was going through. And her mother. Los Angeles Fire Department spokesperson Brian Humphrey reported receiving the call responding at 9:37 a.m. on December 20th to the area near Sepulveda and Century Boulevards. Caller described trying to perform CPR on young Yayra until the LAFD arrived and took over. However, upon their arrival, firefighters pronounced the child deceased. KTLA reports an LAPD detective alleged the baby died due to cardiac arrest. However, Yayra's cause of death is still being investigated with the LA County Medical Examiner looking into the official cause of death. Yayra's mother says the baby may have died from the cold due to their inability to secure shelter or an unknown medical condition. It's possible that her father may have had some type of heart condition, and I wasn't told about it. Very possible that she did freeze to death. It's possible because she was fine the night before. She was fussy, but she had 6 teeth coming in as well. How does a teething baby go to sleep and just not wake up? Van Cleave said to local station Fox 11. Yeah, I'm triggered again. The mom said she is trained as a pharmacy technician and had hoped to continue in that field in Los Angeles, but because she had no stable housing, you know how many people need pharmacy technicians? Do you know how crucial that position is? Not enough of them. Nothing could be figured out. She had no stable housing, so she could not secure employment. I used to be a pharmacy tech. I have a degree. I've never been on drugs. I take being a mother very seriously, and I know there are things being said about me that are not true. I made sure her kids, ate 3 times a day. Some days I didn't eat. I made sure they ate and they were clean. Van Cleave said that she had tried to be admitted to a program or a shelter, but was denied by several of the city's homeless service programs. Housing and stuff fell through because the county building actually promised housing and whatnot because they made it seem like people with children are a priority. But we ended up sleeping in my car when I had my car, Van Cleave said to Fox 11, adding, when my car died, that's when everything went downhill. We ended up outside sleeping at LAX for a good 2 weeks. During all that rain, we were outside. Mayor Karen Bass, who governs the second largest unhoused population in the country, released a statement December 27th. After we became aware of this family situation, the mayor's office coordinated with PATH, who was working with LAHSA to extend the housing options for this family. And we will now work to identify a longer term solution, including offering resources for them to reunite with family on the East Coast. She also cited the incident tragic, called the incident tragic, and said this incident is exactly why we need to get people off the street immediately, especially those with children. That's why Bass won her election based on her promise to house about a third of the city's over 75,000 homeless people by the end of 2023, population that has increased by 9% since 2021. However, she was not successful. Van Cleave was providing lodging in a motel. She was given that by PATH after the incident, after her 1-year-old died, but was scheduled to check out on December 28th. She stayed in the room with her surviving toddler, her godmother, Stella Bethel's son. Van Cleave said before the tragedy, she called 211. That's a hotline that works to connect people in LA County with emergency shelters, but she couldn't get through. 3 days before my baby passed away, I remember calling 211 LA Family Housing along with homeless shelters, Volunteers of America, PATH. And they would all say, "You're on the wait list," or "We just got started on these applications." And they, a different family, applied in 2017. And you applied this year. So it's going to be like a 10-year wait. Can you not even pick up the phone, please? I don't want you to pick up the phone if that's what you're going to tell people. Van Cleave said this: "I have a call log to this day of calling around. Nobody had answers for me or anywhere for us to go." The mom said, rightfully believing she was not the only one. The city controller said their audit revealed that during the previous winter, the 211 action number for unhoused people faced an overwhelming influx of over 160,000 calls for shelter. Only half of that number was being answered or even returned by the agency. This incident should be a wake-up call for our community that we need crisis and long-term housing options for our vulnerable populations, such as families with children, seniors, individuals with disabilities, and other at-risk populations, 211 said. Senator, I like Karen Bass, and I'm going to try not to do this. You did don't even lead with this in the statement that you got them a place to stay after the 1-year-old. You should have had the same urgency while the baby was still alive. And I don't know if the mother brought up a potential long-term injury or cardiac arrest or a pre-existing condition. But I've seen this before, and I want the LA medical examiner on notice here, because it's all one entity and it would serve the city's interest for this to be declared something other than what it seems to be. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Okay. George Floyd died of acute something. No, he died because you had your knee on his neck. I'm disgusted by this. If you know last year you had 160,000 calls and half, which means more than that, didn't get returned or even answered. You served, I didn't. I'm going to give you the floor because I at least need to know that you're running around frantic here, and I don't see it. I see you running around doing PR after the fact. Little girl should be here.
That's it, Sharon. I mean, it's a domino effect here, and it was too little, too late. And then even in the reporting, we see that the housing that they did get her, the temporary shelter that they did get her after her daughter died, was very limited itself. Resources have to be deployed. There are over 500,000, like 500,000 of people unhoused in this country. It is a crisis. This is when you need state and federal government working to help mayors like Karen Bass. Now, this has been a crisis before she got there. She just got there. It was a crisis before she got there. So I want to cut her a little slack on that. But if this is your number one issue, act like it's your number one issue. I'll be on people's desks. turning over tables on the state house, turning over tables in DC. You want to talk about the federal government has the biggest stick, Sharon. And so they should be focused on this. We have a housing, an unhoused crisis in America that is very much linked to the economy, very much linked to the fact that the working poor in this country cannot afford housing anymore, very much linked to the fact that we are allowing corporations to just take over and gobble up everything. And so charity starts at home and spreads abroad and not the other way around. So if we got all this money for the wars, to quote the urban poet Tupac, got money for wars, but you can't feed the poor. Got money for wars, but you can't house the poor. Got money for wars, but you allow a 1-year-old baby and her family to die because people have a callous indifference. And I felt the mama when she said people blaming me. This ain't no time to be pointing fingers. Obviously, the system is not working and you got people who need help. And this baby and her family is just one of millions of people who are either, unhoused, underhoused, looking for shelter on a regular basis. And dare I not bring in our veterans on this. Yeah. And not that their lives are more important in terms of having housing, but we just put that extra point out there that if this country is that callous to allow unhoused veterans, then what you think about everybody else? Yeah. Too little, too late, and the federal government needs to step up.
I'm glad you said that. And that's why I said it. You served, I didn't. That's what I should have said. Federal government, you have resources, okay? And this whole thing, I just want to say, I want to wear a t-shirt sometimes that says, "You're so ignorant." She can't get employment, never been on drugs, although, look, that's an illness, okay? And has a degree. They need pharmacy techs, but we can't hire you. We got to stick with our policies. We can't hire you because you're so ignorant. I could solve that problem today. Couldn't you solve? This is so easy. And you mentioned the money and the wars, and you're right. And I was going to lead with this, and I forgot to ask you, how much money are they going to spend on this presidential election, Tanner? Do you know? Hello. How much money is available?
It'll be billions. I mean, between the outside money groups that are going to come in, the money that each candidate will fundraise, it will be billions of dollars, just like it is every single time.
Can't the baby be alive?
Can't the baby be alive?
Can you spare a few coins for the baby?
Just a callous indifference.
It's a callous indifference. It's that part. Sometimes things happen sometimes, but this didn't have to happen. How can we even get to the things happen sometimes? Yeah. I'm just disgusted.
And why does she have to qualify herself, Sharon? I know we got to go on, but
that part
that hurt my heart. Like she got to qualify herself to say, "I haven't been on drugs." Look, sometimes the bottom falls out for people, and then it becomes a domino, and then they can't get out. It's a spiraling impact. But she has to qualify herself just to prove that her and her family is worthy of housing. This is BS.
Yeah, wonder what her transcript looked like. She didn't have a daddy who gave her $1 million, who sent her off to some military school.